Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Kubey Monsterdog in polished Damascus. Wow. So this is the first time that I have seen polished Damascus on a budget knife. Now we're going to talk about that, but yes, this is a budget knife. I found this knife just a couple of days ago. It was out of stock, but listed on Smoky Mountain Knife Works for $72, making it a sub $75 knife, therefore a budget knife, on this channel, by this channel standards. Now, they make a regular version of this knife in 14C28N, which I will link right down below. It is available. And those can be found as low as $56. You have to kind of scroll through and check the different variants. Sometimes Amazon lists them in different colors for more or less money. But anyways, what I am seeing is a range of about $55 to about $72. Kubey lists this on their own website at like 90 bucks. The whole range is just pretty good. For the materials, use G10 steel and either polished Damascus, mystery composition, but polished Damascus, or 14C28N. That's pretty cool. Thanks so much to Kubey for sending this in for me to review. Thanks to my generous patrons who are supporting me. Link for Patreon down below. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. We're going to talk all about, the blade and stuff like that, but let's go ahead and get some specs here first. Overall length of the Monsterdog is coming in at about 7 inches. Blade is coming in at just shy of 3 inches. It really is like 2.9 inches, 2.85. Cutting edge is coming in at about 2.85 inches. How about some size comparisons? Just a couple. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. Because of the profile of this knife, it comes off a lot larger than it actually is. You can see here it's about the same length as the Rat 2, but it's just, there's just more knife, more presence in hand. How about up against the Spyderco Para 3? Definitely a little bit shorter than the Para 3, but as far as cutting edge goes, it does beat it by just a little bit. Last but not least, let's do the Benchmade Bug Outs. Benchmade Bug Out, definitely more slender, more, streamlined, more cutting edge, definitely longer, etc. How's the action? Those gigantic thumb studs. First of all, it's running on bearings and the action is very good, but those thumb studs allow you to really get a good, starting point. There's a lot of traction there. There's a lot of surface area, so being able to kick it out with those thumb studs is pretty easy and really satisfying. It's also very smooth. If you've never handled a Kubey knife, they are made in China, but they are definitely one of the best companies out there when it comes to inexpensive, high quality knives. Absolutely. In fact, I think they're kind of an underrated brand. They have a lot to offer. Those links that I have down below will take you to all sorts of Kubey stuff that's available, so you can check it out if you want to. The action, very good. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. You can see here, it's a little bit thicker than the Para 3. Probably gonna, be more impactful to some people than others. The length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3, you can see here, it's really about the same overall length as the Para 3. Maximum height is definitely in the same ballpark. We've got a lot of height going on here in the closed position. Not quite as long as the PM2, but again, matching it in the height. Let's take a look at the inside here, which would normally be easy because I would use a flashlight. We're just not going to use it today because I don't know where it is. Yeah, there's some skeletonization going on here. So G10 and steel, and then like I said, the mystery composition Damascus. Let's go ahead and weigh it. 4.59 ounces, so the ratios are not perfect, far from it. The balance on this knife is probably still decent given the blade has, it's okay. It's right there behind the pivot, and that's because there's so much weight in the blade, right? So you pick it up and it doesn't feel ultra heavy. It feels pretty good, pretty balanced, but it is factually a 4.59 ounce object. So keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are there's my flashlight. Jeez. Get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description. It talks about the tools that I use on this channel. That is a T9. What am I doing? Is Kubey T8? Yeah. T8. T8 for the body screws, which is good. And then we have T6 for the pocket clip screws. No big deal. Minimal hardware. That's great. No complaints there. It's also worth noting for people going, those thumb studs are way too big. These can be removed. It is possible to remove the thumb studs and add some of your own that are, you know, Torx and have the right, I guess, cylinder that's going to go through the, my wording is not exactly correct. That's going to go through the hole here. And I don't know the size of it or anything like that. But it is possible. It's just not a likely, it's not, I'm not going to say like, yeah, you can, there's like this whole plethora of parts that'll fit perfectly. I want to be careful about that. But if you are one of those people who regularly does that and knows what they're doing, right? Depending on who you ask, they'll say it's not really that hard. You can technically remove these. It's not like they're press fit or anything like that. So anyways, let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness. Boy, I really need to organize. Just off to the left here. I'm glad you guys can't see it. It's a mess with all the stuff that comes in on a daily basis. Blade stock thickness coming in at about 120 thousandths, which is about what I'd expect. So there you go. I think that's pretty much it. Should we move on here? Okay. So this is a kind of a goofy looking knife. This is a kind of a, is what I said there. It is definitely. It's kind of got that blade to handle ratio thing going on, like the same kind of deal as the Para 3, where we have a lot of handle, a lot of ergonomic room. You can definitely get behind the blade, or right up behind the blade. And then there's just it's nowhere near a one-to-one, right? Now, people asking about food prep, it lays, if you're gonna lay this thing flat, right? I'm gonna lay the whole thing down, handle on the box. It actually lays down pretty close to the back of the edge. There's only a tiny little bit of the edge that is not connecting with a flat surface. So you know what? Yeah, it'll do all right. Now the problem here, the glaring issue that many people have already noticed, is that the thumb stud is definitely in the cutting path. If you're gonna cut straight down, you're gonna have to move everything over here to get it to clear, which is, you know, okay, I guess, because if you're laying this thing down, like if you're actually gonna use it for food prep, which is not, most people are just gonna carry and use this, but I know people are gonna ask because of the shape of it, right? It has to clear it to here, and that's fine because there's a little tiny bit of the edge that does not connect immediately, but it wouldn't be bad. There are pocket knives out there that are definitely better suited, and let's be real, the best knives that are suited for food prep are kitchen knives, which are pretty freaking common, right? But I guess if you're camping or something like that, this wouldn't be the worst choice in the world, and you know, especially considering it's just not a super expensive knife. Anyways, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, let's talk about ergonomics. It's actually, this is a real great, I mean, it just feels so perfectly suited for the human hand, and that's even considering we're looking at one of these gooseneck bill pocket clips. It's not terrible, but you're definitely going to feel it a little bit. That being said, everything else is so good. Like this area right here is so well thought out, and these edges are so nicely knocked down that it's just really comfortable. This thumb ramp back here with some jimping on it also feels great. You can get up here if you want to. You can do this if you want to, right? That's what I like about these sheep's foot style blades that have the tip sort of pointing down. It's just, I find that blade shape makes my day-to-day just really kind of run-of-the-mill knife stuff, like those tasks, it just makes them that much easier. I like these style of blades, and it's short enough, right? You can get your finger up there and do those kind of cuts, right? If you're doing draw cuts or things like that, just makes it easy. It's also going to be a good slicer. The edge geometry down at the actual apex is pretty thin. The material out here, there's quite a bit of material. I'm still not going to say, you know, don't jam it in and pry with it. That's definitely not a good idea. But there's quite a bit of material out here, and I would venture to guess that at least the geometry is going to be fairly strong. What is this composition? I don't know. a lot of Damascus is very mystery, right? So if you're on Amazon and you're like, I found a Damascus knife for $20. Yeah, that's all you got to do is look. You just got to be willing to look. No, stop. What you're buying there is likely super duper poo-poo town Damascus. Damascus can be any two compositions. Proprietary Damascus, like Damasteel or Damacor, is always the same stuff, right? If it is proprietary. But a lot of that cheapo Damascus is just anything. It's just meant to have the look, right? I don't know. This stuff is hardened to between 58 and 60 Rockwell. We're going to have people jumping, oh, well, it's obviously not good because 58 to 60, I've heard here recently, is pretty soft, so that's not good. Also, stop. Different compositions of steel will have a different optimum range of hardness, right? So, for example, 1095, that's a composition that people love for like outdoor hard use and camp knives, right? You do not want that stuff at 63, 64, 65 because that particular composition, which is different than, it's its own thing. That's why we call it 1095. That's why we have different names for steel instead of all steel is just steel, right? Which it isn't. You don't want that stuff super hard for what it's going to be used for and for, what it's actually made up of. It's just not going to be beneficial for the steel. While ZDP 189, on the other hand, really needs to be up there, even higher, 66, 67, or 68, to make the best use of the composition, what it was designed to do. So, there is no universal range. It's not like anything that's under 60 is soft, and anything that is over 60 is hard, and hard always means good, and soft always means bad. No, that is an incredibly simple way of looking at it, and it is just flat out not true. So, don't judge it by that. We definitely have some compositions now in the modern knife world that are in a range that they should not be in, and that is definitely an issue, but I don't want people to jump to conclusions and just automatically associate steels, bad steels with the 50s and good steels with the 60s. It's just not true. That being said, I have no idea what this is. Civivi's Damascus, I've heard people say that it's like a combination of some 9CR composition and some 10CR composition, but they're powdered, which is interesting. AR RPM 9, which is CJRB's proprietary powdered steel. That was one of the first powdered steels that we saw in the budget knife world. That is also apparently very, very similar. The composition is very similar to 9CR. It's like a powdered 9CR 18 MOV. So is this that? Has that formula started to circulate? Maybe. I don't know. We've seen that before where there's like a formula and then there's the original creator of the formula and then somebody else just kind of is like, hey, we made the same thing. M390, 204P, 20CV. Sorry. Weird cough there, but yeah, that happens, right? I'm not saying that's the same thing here, but would it surprise me? No. The main thing here, the main thing that I want to point out is that the etch is pretty good. It's a lighter etch, but it looks good, and the polish is really good too. I'm going to give you guys an example. People say, face reveal, face reveal. Hey, listen, my face is out there, okay? Hi, my face is out there. You want to see what my face looks like? Go to my live streams, and the thumbnails, the older ones actually have my face in it. So let's look at Civivi's Damascus, right? Here's why. It's very foggy, flat. I'm not saying that it has to be polished to look good, but you can see how much more crisp the etch actually looks in this guy versus this guy. This is just kind of murky and kind of, it doesn't look as good, right? Now, performance, right, it might perform really well. A lot of people say you're getting hung up on how it looks. If you're watching my channel right now, if you are here watching, at least part of you cares about how things look. You can't pretend that it doesn't. You clicked on an enthusiast knife channel, right? The tabletop overview. You definitely do care at least a little bit how it looks, right? So this is justified. Yeah, it just doesn't look that good. Really, really premium. Like if you want to talk Damasteel, this is proprietary. 2 powder steels from the Damasteel company. It'd be PMC 27 and RWL 34, making a a powdered Damascus that is the equivalent of CPM, if it performs like CPM 154. This would be a this is a much more expensive knife. This is a really, really high polish. You can see the etch is much more, you know, like the contrast here between the polished parts and the darker parts, right? It's just a much, much more premium etch. Another example of Damasteel on a high-end knife that's got that high polish, and then here's an example of Damacore, which is going to be really, really expensive, also proprietary, right? And these are high performance and very expensive compositions. This is definitely a less premium composition, and it's got a less premium etch, but it's got a really nice polish on it. I'd be lying if I said, oh yeah, no, the polish is still, you know, way better on it. No, I mean, the polish is just really good, right? So that's why, it's impressive. Apparently that process has become less expensive because they wouldn't be able to do it on a budget knife if it was super expensive. But yeah, so you're not going to get like this kind of stuff. This kind of stuff is not going to perform like Damasteel. It's not the same thing, right? And people think Damascus, Damasteel, and like it's all the same thing. It's not. Damasteel is still definitely going to be the all-around way better performer, but you're going to have to pay a lot more money for it, right? These are still going to do okay at respective price points, but just to clear that up so people kind of understand what we're looking at here. Still have no idea how this is going to perform. If I had to guess, I don't know. It might perform something like VG10. Some people say, you know, it's like 440C, like Civivi's Damascus performs like 440C. A lot of people say that, you know, swear the AR RPM 9 imitates exactly 9CR18 MOV. Somewhere in the vicinity of VG10 is my guess. That's real bland, and I'm sorry that I can't get that much more specific about it, right? Overall fit and finish on the blade and just everything down at the cutting edge, right? The flats, everything all the way around, everything looks good. Kubey does a good job with fit and finish, and this knife is no exception. This is very easy to disengage. That lock bar has a nice big cutout there so you can come at it from the side. No double clutch or anything like that. And because of this nice, large, kind of choily area, as soon as you disengage that lock, the detent ball is well up on the face of the blade, and there's plenty of room for a safe, you know, non-sharpened portion of the blade to come down on your finger, and then you can just turn it sideways and let it fall into place there. Yeah, really nice. There is a lanyard hole, so lanyard people, unite and rejoice. There you go. You have a big hole in your blades. You're going to put a rope and a dingly thing on it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Lipped liners, they are definitely not recessed. They're absolutely full-length steel liners. That probably, you know, part of the reason why the knife is a little heavier than some people might expect, but that's no big deal. Pocket clip can be mounted for left or right-handed carry. It's just resting right on top of the frame. I wish that it was recessed, but it's not. No big deal. It'll carry plenty deep. The entire thing will be hidden inside of your pocket. So if you appreciate that, then there you go. In and out of the pocket should be okay. Because of the end of this bill goes straight, actually kind of angles down a little bit, which I hate that. You have to fight it. If your pocket seam is thicker than the distance between the G10 and the bill, like the tip of the bill, then you're going to be, you know, and you got to hold the pocket and push it, you know, stupid. When it's ramped like this, right? Then if the surface is smooth enough, the surface of the G10 is smooth enough, or whatever material it is, then it just goes right in and out of your pocket, and that's great. This has got a little bit of peel fly texturing, so you will have to fight your pocket a little bit, and you know it'll probably fray up your pockets a little bit over time, but no big deal. This is a captive pivot, which is nice. So adjustments, very easy. We have a stop pin back here, no shouldering, but doesn't need it. No lock stick, no pivot lash. Lockup is coming in at something like, I don't know, 35% or so. No pivot lash, and very smooth, nice detent, and we're coming in perfectly centered. This is a cool little knife. Super ugly. Looks ridiculous, like a fancy dodo bird from the future that was made into a pocket knife. Yeah, it definitely looks like a bird. Day to day though, I mean, this is a really good, other than the gigantic thumb studs being in the cutting path. I mean, here's the thing. That's kind of a trade-off. Some people are gonna say, I don't care if it's in the cutting path because I don't cut straight down often. It's usually kind of, I'm just using like a portion of the blade to get into something, or if I am cutting, then it's more of at an angle, right? So I don't notice it as much. And in any case, you'll adapt to it because you'll start to remember subconsciously where those thumb studs are, right? Ergonomically, it's good. It's fairly compact. It's also kind of heavy and can be a little bit bulky in the pocket, but overall, this is good. And the blade shape will actually allow you to do those kind of rock chop cuts, like, you know, that you would do for food prep and stuff like that. So it might be, I mean, if you're cutting like, here's the thing. If you're cutting a thin carrot, right? If you're cutting something that is taller than the blade, that's when you're gonna run into it. But if you're chopping up a carrot or something like that, well then yeah, you're gonna be okay. You're not even gonna have to worry about the fact that the thumb stud's in the cutting path because the thing's not gonna be taller than the blade of the knife as you cut through it, right? So it just depends on what you're cutting. Like I said, pricing these guys, when you're watching this video, maybe they have restocked the Damascus versions, right? In which case you're going to be looking at something like 70, 75 bucks, and then the 14C28N versions anywhere from $55 to $70 right now, because it's the time that I'm reviewing it is weird. It's like Amazon availability only, and so the prices are all over the place. But that's the general range, right? That's the general range. That 55 bucks is low for 14C28N. Generally speaking, I'm looking at 60 to 70 bucks for 14C28N, so it's still not inappropriate. The bigger conversation I want to have here is about this. Kubey, this is cool, man. People like this, and if this performs somewhere around the VG10 ballpark, it's fairly justified in this price. I mean, getting VG10-esque performance and a blade that looks super duper cool. I mean, if you don't like the Damascus look, then you don't like the Damascus look. I imagine a lot of people would be pretty pumped to own this and use this, right? It's pretty cool. I gotta stress that I do not know anything about this composition here. I know absolutely nothing about it. They have not etched it up here. It would be quite bold for Kubey to say that this is Damascus, and then it turns out that it is not Damascus. I have no way of testing that. But if you're wondering, like, why can't I see the pattern up here like you can on the spine of something like this, right? It's because they etched it up here. If you don't etch Damascus, you will not be able to tell the difference between this and any other blade. You have to etch it in order to bring those, whatever composition has the lower chromium, right, count, then those darkened areas are going to show up, right? So if you don't etch that part, it's not going to come out. So they just didn't, right? Just knowing Kubey's track record, I'm going to say, yeah, it's probably Damascus, right? I just don't know what the two compositions are. As long as this is actually Damascus, and assuming that the performance is, you know, relatively okay, I think this is something that they should be doing with a lot of their stuff, right? I've only seen this on one or two things from their line, and I think this looks great. I think Civivi should take a note and change their stuff, because this looks way better, and Kubey is clearly able to do it for not very much money. So, again, that's based on kind of a lack of information on this, you know, on this stuff. I don't know much about it, but it sure does look nice. I like this design. For the design itself, recommendable knife. This is a cheap knife I like, so it's going to go in my cheap knives I like playlist. It's also it's definitely a recommendable knife, right? It's a couple of quirks, but it's definitely a recommendable knife. Like I said, you'll be able to check these out in the description if you'd like. This will likely end up being given away, so if you're not subscribed, subscribe, because I generally give stuff away on live streams. Anyways, thanks again to Kubey for letting me take a look. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.